Hey guys, it's Ted from Ted Lincoln's Fishy Life here on my friend's dock, doing a long overdue breakdown of my bite of the days for June, July, and August, pretty much the whole summer. Sorry, it's been so busy doing odd jobs and making art. Haven't had time to film this. I've actually tried to film this several times, but keep getting rained out, and might actually get rained out today, but I figured I'd try. But let's just jump right into it. Like I said, this is starting in June with bite number 229. And this is one of the Hookup Sanity. If you haven't seen my recap of the entire Hookup Sanity tournament, I put that out maybe a few weeks ago. Talks about almost every bite and every condition that I used to win the tournament. If you didn't know, I won $1,000 from the Hookup Tackle and Bait Sanity using the Explorer Gill. And if you've been watching my channel, it's not new to you. I actually pulled this out of my trophy case off my stump of fame because I lost one of them already since that other video, but I still have one, but it's in my tackle box. But this is the one in the video. Why don't you guys watch the video and I'll break it down a little bit for you. There we go. So like I said, this was broken down already in the Hookup Sanity breakdown of the tournament video, but this was one of my last good fish I actually caught out here on this very lake. Talk about my equipment for a second. That was on the floating one, I believe, which is the one here. So there's a floating and sinking version of the Explorer Gill by Bait Sanity. My swimbait glide bait setup, you guys have seen this before. It's got a Savage gear on there right now, but Dobyns Fury 806, 8-foot, 6-power rod. Famous on the internet for being the best valued swim bait rod on the market, and I can't really argue. I'm running a Curado 200 with a Gomexus power handle, 65-pound Berkeley X9 braid to a 20-pound mono big game, Berkeley big game leader, to a Spro quick clip. And not to keep repeating myself, but I break this down so much more in my tournament breakdown of the Hookup Sanity. But yeah, we're just gonna move on to the next bite because it's also an Explorer Gill bite, also part of the Hookup Sanity tournament that I did. That went from March through June, so that's why it's kind of, I think June 21st was the last date. But so some of those bites are in here. It's starting to rain a little. I'm going to keep talking. We'll see how far I get. But watch this one, and I'll tell you a little bit about how this bite actually worked. There we go. I got one today. Just a least. Come on. This one was interesting. I knew the spot, and with the glide bait, sometimes you're working grass edges that you can see, and sometimes it pays to know the area you're in. In this particular spot, I knew there was coontail under the water that you couldn't see. The water's really clear, so on a calm day you can see it. And I had been over this area before. It was a lake I knew, and just cruised it, and I knew it dropped off right at the end of the coontail, so I just kind of swam it by, just swam between these two clumps of coontail. Because with the glide bait with treble hooks, if you haven't ever fished one, the worst thing you can do is get any kind of weeds on the hooks or on the bait. It just kills the action. So I kind of had to know where to cast to make this work, and I did, luckily, and it did work. I just swam that explorer gill out, and boom. As soon as I got over the deep water, just on the edge of that coontail, that bass hit it. But like I said, I have a whole hour-long video on everything I did during the Hookup Sanity, my whole setup, links to all the baits and all the products. I'll put links to my gear and for all of this one as well. But like I said, we're covering like 3 months of Bite of the Day, so it's going to be kind of a long list. What is next? So one of the things that I do is switch out hooks from this. It's in my video. I use the Gamakatsu G Finesse and the Owner ST35 Stinger hooks. But that leaves some extra hooks that come off of these, and I've gone through enough of these that I have a few extras. And that leads us to the next Bite of the Day, which was 3 in a row on this good old, Sammy 128. Man, those hooks are sharp, with the hooks off of Explorer gills. Why don't you watch this triple bite, and I'll break it down for you. Got one.
Nice.
It feels pretty good.
Yeah.
He just sucked it under. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Oh my God.
Move your rod.
Yep. Nice. Nice.
He's another bent one.
Nice, man.
Good one.
Get him, bro. Get him. Dude.
Not as good as that last one, but
Fuck him up, bro. I don't even care. Fuck, I'm here for it.
oh, there you go. No, I know what I should put on. Whoa!
Big in.
Yeah,
Big in. You need net?
no, I got it. She's hooked.
Nice. I'm switching, boy. Get it, dude.
Another chunky fish.
Yeah.
Healthy one. Well, it's raining a little bit, but I'm going to keep talking, trying to burn my way through this. This day definitely was one of the warmer days as far as water temperature goes. I mean, all this time period in June and early July, it wasn't uncommon to see water temps, surface water temps at the boat ramp in the upper 90s, like 95. And you know, that's pretty warm, but you don't have to go too deep to get cooler. But one of the things that is key to Florida in both summer and winter is finding moving water. In the winter it's warmer, in the summer it's cooler. And this was one of those days where I was trying to track down the moving water. I was with my buddy Calvin again, and we started to get bit on some smaller poppers and topwaters. And we got out into this little bit more open area where I knew a lot of fish like to hang out in the hydrilla, just in the slightly cooler water. I think it was like 87 degree water instead of 92 degree water. So I mean, just a few degrees difference. And I took off my, I think I had the Gunfish 95 on like I normally do, and I popped on the good old Sammy 128, like I said, with the improved hooks. These are the hooks off the Explorer gill. I don't know where Bait Sanity gets them, but I also upgrade the rings to these Pro Power rings. And this is a great color. It's like a herring or shad color. I'll have to look up the color. Found this at Ollie's on sale, so I love that too. And even though it's a big bait, I was throwing it on my regular topwater setup, which you guys have seen before if you watch my channel. I actually got the Dual Realis topwater on there right now. That thing knocks. Hopefully I can do a bite of the day video on this one soon. So this is my Dobyns Fury 663 carbon. So this is a 6'6" 3 power. So it's like a fast rod. It's actually not a topwater or even a treble hook bait rod. It's a worm, like jig Cinco rod, but because of the way I fish my topwaters in this and around all the heavy cover, I like a little bit faster rod than most people would want. A more moderate rod, but I need to be able to pop those treble hooks out of the cover, which isn't such a big deal when or something that you can't really do when you throw a bait like this with the 3 big hooks. But I knew that there was open water between the hydrilla, and this rod can actually handle everything from the little Yozuri pop like Sammy 128. If I go bigger than this, I gotta, but that's another. On this rod, I'm running my SLX XT 30-pound X9 braid. Is the 8-2-1 with a 17-pound trilene mono leader to a owner hyper wire clip. I take all the split rings off my topwaters and my pretty much all my baits, and I run clips now. I like to run the kind of slide-on snaps more than the clips, but with topwater, these hyper wire ones are definitely the lightest ones I can find for the strength. And some poppers, you can't slide a clip into them, like the Spro clips I like. So you have to use one that opens, like a standard old school. And these are like welded hyper wire. That's a 30-pound, and it doesn't affect the walk of the bait at all in terms of weight. It does catch a little more on weeds than a split ring, but the ability to switch topwaters, like within a cast, like within 2 casts, switch between 2 different topwaters is worth it to me. Not everybody likes to, but, and because I run a leader, I don't want to have to keep tying leaders all the time. But I do have to check my leader often to make sure I'm not fraying it. But yeah, the Sammy 128, every now and then you just got to throw a bigger topwater, and man, it was just like night and day as soon as I put it on. There's nicer fish. We were catching like 1 or 2 pounders, and then they went to 3 to 4 pounders, all because And the distance of cast you can get with one of these really helps too. Great bait. So if you've been a subscriber to my channel for a while or follow me on Instagram or even just one of my friends, you're aware I love the frog bite. But the last year or two has been a little slower than the previous year or two. So that makes me search out some different frogs. It's not the first time this frog's been on the channel. Why don't you watch the bite and I'll tell you more about it. Wiggle Wog. That was on my older frog setup, which I ended up breaking the rod by accidentally laying it down near my friend's power poles on the back of his boat. And when he pulled them up, it broke my rod. Something you should look out for if you are on a boat with power poles and you're not used to it. But this is a unique bait. It swims on top. It's almost like it's like a Big Easy would do, but even smaller, and it floats most of the time. It doesn't float as well as all frogs. It does tend to want to sink. I did put a little extra shrink heat wrap wire on there to try to make it float a little better, and it seems to work. It seems to help. I haven't fished it that much since I put that on there, but sometimes they don't want a frog that's twitching or walking or even popping on the surface. Sometimes they want something kind of just swimming, slightly buzzing on the surface. And when you're throwing in heavy cover, that's when the Wiggle Wog comes out. It's an odd frog. I ordered it just one day because I needed to fill out my Tackle Warehouse order. I don't think Tackle Warehouse even sells these anymore. I think I got them on closeout. But if you can find them, they're pretty awesome. And that was, like I said, on my old setup, which was an SLX 7'2" heavy. We're going to get to my new setup, but it's the same reel. It's the SLX standard, the 8.2-to-1, 50-pound straight X9 Berkeley braid. But yeah, like I said, it was a 7.2 heavy. And I was just reeling it in through the cover, and then boom, there you go. So here is the last Bait Sanity bite that I have on video. It's just a good video, so I threw it in here. Why don't you watch it, and I'll tell you about it. There we go. That's a good one. That's the one I need. Come on. Yeah. I mean, I caught so many fish. I think I caught 4 8-pounders in the window of the Bait Sanity tournament. A couple 7s, a bunch of 6s and 5s. I have it all written down in my other video, or listed. And this was the last good one I got on tape. On the last weekend I could fish before the end of the tournament. I actually couldn't fish the last few days because life and work got in the way, but I kind of went out and killed it on the last weekend. I got an 8, a couple 6s, and a bunch of smaller fish. And my rule was every day I went out, I had to at least try to catch one fish on that bait before I tried something else. And there were days I didn't catch anything. And I always fished it on that same swimbait setup, the Dobyns Fury 806, and with that curado reel. I'll have a link to the full video explaining everything at the bottom. So we'll just move on to the next one. So my next bite of the day, number 234, is my friend Amanda. We snuck her out onto Rainbow River one day. Just watch her. She's got a mean set, hook set.
Say what?
Don't reel up so high.
So I don't get caught.
Yeah, here, let some line out. I told you it was down. A little more. Just, yeah, leave it open.
Dad, you can do it.
Told you. So this was a weekend on Rainbow River, which is probably one of the hardest in the summer, hardest times to fish there. It was just the only time she had to go out, and I needed to go out there for another reason, and I just had to put on the old faithful. And if you've ever been in my boat on Rainbow, you know the one thing that always works is the 4-inch power worm. I think this would have been the third trip where she had gotten bites, but she hadn't landed a bass, so I wanted to make sure she caught one this day. So we went to this tree that I know they like to hang out under. Even when there's people going by, there's always at least one hungry bass under that tree. And sure enough, she got that one. And like I said, that was quite a hook set, wasn't it? It's just cool to get other people and fish, not just show my catches. That was your standard old school 4-inch power worm. I don't have one on me, so I'll have to describe it. In pumpkin seed, the little curly tail, not the ribbon tail, not the finesse worm, just the old school curly tail with a little 16th ounce lead weight and a 1/0 Gamakatsu worm hook, spinning rod, 15-pound braid to I think a 6-pound fluoro leader. If you want to catch fish in clear water in Florida, it's hard to beat the 4-inch. Either motor oil or pumpkin seed power worm. It's like money. Like you can catch so many fish on it. I've taken it to almost any lake that's clear or river, and I've caught fish on it. Not always big fish, but you should at least catch something. So it's a little Florida secret. It's not all about just the Zoom speed worm, although that is also a thing. The small power worm, finesse style, is definitely a thing. So the next bite is me breaking in my new frog rod after I broke that one on my friend's power pole. This is another one of those hot days out on Orange Lake. Why don't you check out the video? I'll tell you all about it. There we go. Awesome. First frog bass on the new rod. So this day was, like I said, another hot day. I think the water temp was like 95 degrees at the boat ramp. And I went up further into the creek, the same creek that I was fishing the outflow from earlier with a Sammy. And I found a set of pads, and this was literally maybe a week before FWC went up there and sprayed all of it. So I'm glad I went up there that day and caught this fish, because they're not there anymore. They leave when they spray the grass and it starts to die. They'll come back when the grass starts to grow back up, but dying grass is never good, especially in shallow water in a creek like that. Not going to happen. But that was on a smaller frog too, this Jackal Cara frog, which this is the only one I have, and I've totally ripped it and worn it out. It's retired. I saved it just for this video. It's totally destroyed. I tried gluing back together a couple times. I'm not the only one on YouTube who's talked about this frog. The thing about this is that it's a smaller frog. Like, where's my frog rat? This is a Booyah Pad Crasher in Old Smoky, which is my go-to, one of my favorites. If not, it is my favorite. But you can see how much smaller that Cara frog is. So sometimes when you're eating a smaller bait, or you just need to be a little bit more subtle, having a smaller frog is good. And this, by casts, way better than most small frogs, because it's, even though it's thin and short, it's tall, so it still has good mass. And it's still really aerodynamic too. And I mean, I caught a lot of fish on it. It lasted a long time before it ripped. But also, the key with the taller frog versus some of the other small frogs, like there's a Spro one where I just don't even know how a fish would get hooked to it. Like, you push down and there's no gap to the hook. This, because it's so tall, there's a gap to the hook when they bite it. So even though it's a small frog, there's still a good hookup ratio. That's the problem I have with almost every smaller frog, is they just downsize everything and they don't think about the hook gap. Like the KVD popping perch, the mini one, it gets bit all the time, but I lose fish. Like, it's about half the hookup ratio of this frog. So, needless to say, I'm going to be ordering more of these. And like I said, that was on my brand new frog rod, same rod and line. And this is a brand new rod to the market. It is the Dobyns Maverick series. So it comes in where the Fury used to. This is a $99 rod, so it's the same as the SLX. I just wanted to try a different rod than the SLX. It's a little bit more moderate, which I actually don't like, for the same power. This is a heavy this is 7, what is the, I'll give it to you. It's a 734C. So if this was a 6, maybe I would like it. I don't know. Dobyns tends to be more parabolic, I've noticed, more moderate, which makes it easier to walk a frog, but I'm pulling frog fish out of this heavy cover. I haven't given up on it. It's still pretty good, but I might go back to an SLX heavy, or go to an extra heavy one of these. We'll have to see. It's not bad. I just miss that extra power and backbone. Well, it still has a good backbone. I just don't need that tip. Like, I need to pull the fish out of the cover more than I need to walk the frog. Because, I mean, I do fish open water frog, but that's more of an accidental thing. I have fish a frog to fish in this heavy cover. I do throw 50-pound braid, not 65, because it casts better, and we want to make really long cast into this junk. That's why I need the extra stiff rod. Jury's still out, but that was the first fish I caught on it, which was fun. And like I said, I was glad I got in there before they sprayed it. That spot's dead now. If you live in Florida, I've been talking about the rain. Today's just a little drizzle, But in the summer, thunderstorms just roll in out of nowhere. Like they just literally create. You'll watch the radar, and it's not like they're coming in from somewhere. They just spontaneously create due to the evaporation of the moisture. And I was out on Orange Lake with Calvin, and we literally didn't have enough time to make it back to the boat ramp when this storm popped up. And the closest thing I could think of was this tree line. I was like, well, let's at least get in the tree line. I would never hide under a tree, but I will go into a tree line if I can, if there's nowhere else to go. And there was nowhere else to go. But so I motored all the way up in there. And then when the rain let up, we were in the middle of this huge pad and hydrilla field. I was like, well, we might as well fish out of this spot. And I put on a good old Big Easy, which I don't happen to have on me. A couple of my baits I left accidentally, but Big Easy fishing is a thing in Florida. So why don't you watch this and I'll tell you more about it. Oh! There we go. Yeah. About the same size as yours, right?
Yeah, a little bit bigger than mine.
I was just wondering. Didn't really video in a while. But like I said, you saw that. It's not particularly a big fish. It's just been a while since I'd caught a fish on a Big Easy. And it was not in the spot I was expecting to catch that fish. Super dark fish, obviously lives in that super thick cover. But a Big Easy is like a weedless buzzbait. It's like Florida's swim bait fishing at its finest. Like Gambler really knocked it out of the park with that lure as far as swimming through weeds and pads. And that little tail kicking. It's really hard to beat. Even tactical bassing guys even said that, oh yeah, Big Easy's a thing. They didn't realize you can't do the same thing with a Kitech that you do with a Big Easy. And it has a great wobble too if you actually use it as a real swim bait under the surface, which I hardly ever do. It is one of my favorite swim jig trailers because it makes the right swim jig, kind of have that secondary wobble. But I was throwing that on this rod, which has my new custom 4-point lures color on it. This is my jig rod / Big Easy rod / I don't know, big frogs, really big frogs. This is like the do everything 7'6" medium heavy fast action curado rod. Just a little bit less beefy than my flipping stick. And I'm running a Citca 200 with 50-pound braid. I like to have a 200 size reel because I like to cast really far. Get really far back in that junk with this. I switched out the Citca handle with an older or a different Shimano handle. I believe this is off of one of my other SLXs to put a longer handle on it to get a little more leverage. So if you didn't know that, you can take almost any handle off of almost any Shimano bait caster and put it on another one with a little bit of modification. You just got to know if it's a flat or if it's angled like that. The older like Calcuttas and whatnot have a flat handle, or the older curados. So if you put a handle like this on, you'll have to put a washer in between. But I just can't leave my stuff alone, so I mess with things. So I decided on a longer handle. So I took a handle off of a reel that I wasn't using as much and put the shorter handle on that, and I love it. 50-pound X9 braid. I think I was running straight braid that day, but sometimes I'll run a 20-pound leader to the Big Easy if I think the water is kind of clear, but you're in such heavy cover, it doesn't really matter. But if you've never tried swimming a Big Easy through heavy cover, Gambler even makes their own hooks for the Big Easy. Just get the center spring keeper on your own. They don't come with keepers, or maybe they do now, but they didn't used to. But I don't like the ones they come with, so I order my own. They're like the owner ones, but longer. I found them on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. But you pretty much want the same thing you'd want to pull a jig fish out of heavy cover, to pull those fish. You want to set that hook through the body and have the leverage to pull the fish out. So that's why I use, this is actually the Curado Fluoro flipping and pitching rod. And like I said, 7.6, medium heavy, fast action. It's awesome. Well, bite number 237 is literally the hottest water temperature I saw all summer. It was above 95 degrees at the boat ramp. But still got them on top water when I found slightly cooler water. Why don't you watch it and I'll tell you more about it. Is it a mudfish or is it a bass? Bass, yeah. He just sucked it under silently.
For real?
Yeah, like I saw it happen, but I never heard it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. We'd have a good bag now, or at least that, you know, not a last place bag. Look at that guy. There. And there you go. There you go. Nothing new, and it won't be the last time you see it. Gunfish 95. This bait gets eaten. It's just big enough that big fish will eat it, and it's just small enough that it mimics some of the smaller bait we have. And I'm not excited about the fact they're putting 3 hooks on this, because the 2-hook version, the reason I like it so much is I can pull it through the weeds and it doesn't hang up in the weeds. Every 3-hook smaller bait I have, it's useless. Like I can't throw it in the pads and just rip it out. The extra hook just gets caught. And it also puts the front hook a little more forward. It gets wrapped around the line and they're getting rid of the feathered treble. So I'm going to try to stock up on as many of these 95s as I can. If you watch my channel, you know one of my top 2, this and the Yozuri popper. Throwing out my same topwater setup you saw. Dobyns Fury, the 6.6 medium heavy with the 30-pound braid. It can coax up a fish even in hot water. That's all I got to say. And you see this one has caught more than its fair share of bass. Gunfish 95, get them while they still got 2 hooks. Or if you don't, just send them to me. I want the 2-hook version. I don't need a 3-hook version. That's just my little soapbox moment. So we're up to, what are we up to? Bite 238. Also left this lure. It's a KVD pop and perch. I don't have it with me, but it's an interesting day of fishing. I had to find the fish, and they weren't on the main lake. They were in the creek, and this is an Orange Lake. It's a totally different lake. Why don't you watch it, and I'll explain it to you.
Holy shit, dude!
Got it. Yeah. There we go.
Pounder boy. He skadooed.
Yeah, he did. Finally, a good fish.
I'm gonna say 3.8.
Go for it. Almost. So I was down in Lake Panisofsky. My buddy Calvin met me down there, and that lake is full of grass, full of big fish, but I couldn't find a bite on the main lake, and I was like, we got a lot of rain. There's probably water moving through the creek that leaves the lake. Why don't we go look? Because I've had luck down there before. And sure enough, like, we weren't the only ones in there, but nobody else was really skipping frogs into the trees, and that was the key. Even though sometimes they bite on the outside of the trees, like that one, we pull them out of the trees, and we went from catching nothing to catching, I don't know, 10 pretty decent fish in those trees. And that was, like I said, on the KVD Pop and Perch, which is my favorite skipping frog. It's got a nice flat bottom. Has a pretty good hookup ratio. I think I destroyed like 3 of them that day. That's the problem with fishing frogs in trees and in reeds. Like, through heavy cover, they last a long time, but when you get around hard cover, you can rip that plastic trying to get them free. But it was worth it. We found some fish and saved the day by just throwing frogs into the trees. What else can I say? Tree frogs. Awesome. Same frog setup that you saw. It was my new Dobyns Maverick setup. It works well for that because it being a little bit more moderate, I can cast a little bit more accurately. And being like a 7.3, it's not too long to get back in those trees. Definitely helped. Oh, I didn't mention also when I upgraded the rod, I upgraded all the bearings. I'm doing a test and I put speed spool, the SLX speed spool bearing kit in here. It definitely casts further and it's definitely noisier. We'll see how long it lasts. I'll do a review or let you guys know what I think of the speed spool bearings down the road. So far so good. Man, I really left a bunch of my lures today. So this next one is an underspin bite, but I'll let you watch it and I'll tell you more about it. That was pretty good one. Nailed it. Can't tell how good. It's all this grass. Not too bad. Another full pound. So the weedless underspin, it's basically a EWG swimbait hook with a little underspin blade like trailed off the back. I believe this was the Harmony hooks that I ordered off of Amazon during the lockdown or pandemic when we couldn't get hooks. It was like the only underspin hook I could find anywhere, and they're surprisingly good. I'd probably order more of them if I needed to. I can buy them locally now, so it's not as much of a big deal. The other thing was that was one of my favorite swimbaits, a little company out of California, MC Swimbaits, and that's their baby bass. And it's by far the coolest baby bass swimbait. And their 4-inch swimbait with that particular underspin, I mean, I've caught so many fish on it. And it's a beefier swimbait. They make 2. They make like a thin shad, and then they make that one, which is the swimmer. And it's good value. You get like 5 or 6 to a pack. I need to order more. I wore them all out. Nobody sells them locally, so I always have to order them from Tackle Warehouse. I was throwing that on my normal medium heavy setup, which is a medium heavy SLX. With an SLX 8-2-1 reel, 30-pound X9 braid. I believe I had a 17-pound mono leader. Sometimes I'll throw a leader, sometimes I won't, depending on where I'm fishing and how clear the water is. One of the tricks, wasn't a trick in this particular bite, but one of the tricks I've noticed with underspin bite, if you don't have a mud bottom, if there's kind of a sand bottom, let it go to the bottom and then lift it up. And let it go to the bottom and lift it up. I don't know what it is, but it works. Doesn't work with just a straight swim bait. Doesn't really work so well with a spinner bait. I mean, I got a spinner bait on here right now. It will work, but not as well. But when I'm throwing the weedless EWG style underspins in cover, I like to throw it on this fast. This is like I said, 7'3", medium heavy, fast action SLX rod, 30-pound braid. If I'm fishing more in open water, I'll throw it on my chatterbait rod, which is all the same specs, but it's a composite rod, so it's a little bit more moderate than that. And it worked great as a chatterbait rod and for the smaller